There are a lot of interesting and secret things going on at Guerrilla Games. It's now more than 2 years since the launch of Horizon Zero Dawn, so they are likely hard at work on the sequel and maybe another game, because they posted a new job listing that is very interesting to say the least. This is for a new game or a potential multiplayer component of Horizon 2. Let's discuss it in this video. I'm curious to hear your input as well in the comments down below. Would also be awesome if you could leave a like on this video as it shows your support, and let's go. If you didn't know, I'm doing a giveaway right now for an E3 2019 game of your choice. Just follow the link in the pinned comment for a chance to win. Be sure you are a subscriber of the channel before you enter. And if you win, I will reach out and send you a pre-order code for a special edition of the game of your choice on your platform of choice. Going back to Guerrilla Games, because they are likely now the first party studio that seems to be next in terms of big AAA game reveal, as they have been quiet for a very long time now. Also interesting, and I tweeted this out as well, is that of course Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 was announced at the E3 2019 show from Nintendo, and that game came out a few days after Horizon Zero Dawn. And there are more similarities, like both games got a big chunk of DLC at the end of 2017. So they both kind of have the same release schedule, at least the previous game, so you would think that a Horizon Zero Dawn 2 reveal is also not really far away if Nintendo is already ready to talk about Breath of the Wild 2. Just an interesting side note. Let's move on to the interesting news that I want to talk about here in this video, because Simon LaRouche, who went back to Guerrilla Games in 2018, shared a new job listing. LaRouche is now working on an unannounced game and worked before this on Killzone 2, Rainbow Six Siege, and also on Watch Dogs 2. But now he's a game director on something secret. An exciting unannounced title according to this new job listing. But no, that's not the interesting part about this network engineer listing for someone who will obviously work on an online component and the server architecture for this new game. If we look at the what will you do section, we see that this person is set to create a robust object replication system that deals with large open worlds. So this online game that they are making is an open world title, at least that's what I take away from this line, and I'm not sure how you can take away anything else. But it goes on, because this game should have many concurrent players, as this network engineer needs to make sure that the game servers will scale to that, to make the many concurrent players possible. Then they continue, you will build systems to detect and cope with network issues. You will create algorithms to reduce hide lag and to prevent cheating. And you will also multi-thread systems to ensure that we maintain frame rate at all times. Okay, this description makes sense for someone working on an online game. But it gets even more interesting. You will integrate PS4 platform features like voice communication, that's what I mean likely by that, into the game. And that very heavily implies that this new game that Guerrilla Games is making will come to the PlayStation 4. Like, why would you otherwise integrate PS4 platform features? Unless that is also needed for a potential PlayStation 5 version of the game. I'm not really sure, but them mentioning PS4 very likely means that this game is also being developed for the PlayStation 4. The question now is, what is this game? The previous job listing that Simon shared was for someone to work on the matchmaking, tournaments, clans and leaderboards, implying that this is a sort of competitive game. But it now looks like it will be an open world title as well, with a lot of concurrent players. So likely more than the 24 players that Killzone Shadowfall had in one map. Could this be an online component for Horizon Zero Dawn 2? I mean, that totally fits the description apart from maybe the tournaments and the clans, because an online component would most likely be about co-op hunting a Thunderjaw, you would think, right? And I've always said that I would totally be down for that if it was a separate online mode, like alongside the single player. Remember that the first Horizon prototypes and you running around with another player, like co-op was possible. They thought about that in the development. And I mean, the Naughty Dog games have a separate multiplayer mode as well, while I would argue that a multiplayer mode for Horizon Zero Dawn makes way more sense than in Uncharted or The Last of Us. But if I had to bet, I would say that the next Horizon will be a single player only title, and that Simon LaRouche and his team are working on another game, so that Guerrilla Games is working on 2 projects right now. Otherwise, you would have two game directors on the same project, with Matthijs de Jonge, the game director on the previous Horizon, still being a game director at Guerrilla Games right now, so likely on the next Horizon. So if Simon is a game director then as well, then it must be on another game, you would think, right? Before Horizon Zero Dawn was revealed, concept arts were going around of these very awesome looking soldiers in an open world environment with ranged and melee weapons. It turned out that this was just a personal project from Luc de Haan, who is now still a senior concept artist at Guerrilla Games. But if we look at the sort of info we have on this potential second online open world game they're working on, then you kind of see similarities, as we see awesome looking characters in a pretty big world from the looks of it. It was sad to find out that this was nothing more than a personal project, because I think that this would totally translate into a really great game. The info we know about this potential second online game does also match the concept art, but it will likely be something else. The PlayStation 4 part remains very interesting, because you would think that at one point the studios would solely focus on the PlayStation 5, because Sony would need exclusives to sell that system, right? Simon joined Guerrilla Games again in February 2018, so that is likely when this second project started. So it's huge if the game is indeed then coming out on the PlayStation 4 as well. Although we have discussed many times here on the channel that Sony expects a more gentle console transition, with numerous new games being released for both the PS4 and the next gen console, even after the PlayStation 5 is out. And the fact that Sony expects the PlayStation 4 to remain the engine of engagement and profitability for the next 3 years also really falls in line with them releasing new games for the PlayStation 4 after the PlayStation 5 is out. So even if this network engineer is not going to work on the next Horizon, I think that the next Horizon will still have the same faith and launch on both systems to leverage that insane install base of the PlayStation 4. At E3, Microsoft announced that Halo Infinite will be a launch title on the Project Scarlet, so the next Xbox in the fall of 2020. But yeah, that game will also be playable on the Xbox One, so why would Sony come out of the gate with PlayStation 5 exclusives if the competition isn't going to do that? If you release a game on both the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5 at the same time, then it's still a PlayStation exclusive, so people would have to buy a PlayStation product to be able to play those games. And that should still be a win. So yes, I really don't see a reason why they would not release some of the future games beyond Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us Part 2 on this console that has more than 100 million units sold. I also think that the PlayStation 5 will be fine for the first 2 years if it doesn't have any exclusives, so games that you can only play on that system. Because the better performance, like higher frame rate and higher resolution, and also the no load times will already be a big selling point compared to playing the same game but on the PlayStation 4. But yeah, the question remains, when will we finally hear about the Guerrilla Games project or projects? I think it really depends on when Sony will unveil their PlayStation 5, because while these projects will likely still launch on the PS4, I still think that they will be the heavy pushers of the PlayStation 5 graphics, as the titles from Guerrilla Games have done many times in the past. Will Sony do PlayStation Experience in this December again after skipping last year? I really hope so, but that would be really the earliest option in my opinion. Will they go in February again, just like with the PlayStation 4 reveal? I hope so, but I also would not be surprised if they really just went dark and then started talking in May 2020 after all the major first half of 2020 games have come out. I mean, you very likely know it, right? That the first half of 2020 is looking insane, and then The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima might join that insane lineup. So we totally got our hands full up to that point. 2020 will be insanely exciting, that's a fact, but hopefully we already get a glimpse of what Guerrilla Games has been working on in this year. I will of course keep you up to date here, so totally subscribe for everything on the next Horizon and maybe another project that Guerrilla Games is working on, online open world type of game. Fingers crossed for something similar to the concept arts, because that looked really cool. A like on this video would of course be super appreciated, and after that Microsoft E3 show we got some very interesting info regarding the next gen battle that will very likely take place in the fall of 2020. Want to go more in depth on that in the future, so keep it locked for that. In the meantime, you can check out my video on The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima, because there are some release date rumors as to when they might land, and spoilers, they will also be in the first half of 2020, at least from the looks of it. For now, I will speak to you next time. Let me know what you think, of course, of this interesting job listing, and goodbye.